Something that I always get a little bit curious about after watching some footage of a new open world game is how big the map is going to be. I've done research for other games like The Division 1, Fallout 4, Ghost Recon Wildlands and all that stuff in the past to try and figure out how big the map was before release. And if you were there for those videos, you would know that they proved to be quite a hassle, since you have to get some in-game footage and then from that in-game footage determine how much is exactly how many meters and then try to put it on the map and then expand it. It's a whole bunch of stuff that always took a lot of time. The thing is though, is that The Division 2 is actually an exact one-to-one copy of the real Washington, D.C. At least when it comes down to the scale. I'm assuming that not every building is going to look exactly the same because we're a few years ahead and we've had this virus. But the map being the same size, being a one-to-one scale to the real Washington, D.C., it does two things. First up, it of course gives a very realistic representation of a post-apocalyptic D.C., but most importantly, it also makes it a lot easier for me to figure out how big the map will be in terms of square kilometers, because I can just use Google Maps, which is exactly what I did for this video. Now in the trailer, in the gameplay for The Division, before the characters head over to the crashed plane and fight these enemies, you can see them open the map for a few seconds, and this is actually where we get to see the borders of the map in The Division 2, at least most of them. We are going to have to interpolate a little bit. It's not going to be 100% accurate, but either way, we can't really be too far off. The east and the north border are very easily spotted. They're right here next to the Capitol Hill and then also just above Union Station. The most south border is a little bit more difficult to spot because it sits right here just as you open the map, but we don't get to see everything and it does seem to narrow down a bit the further we move west, and the map does actually extend west for quite a bit. It's actually a very narrow map, so to speak. Even this island, which according to Google Maps is the Theodore Roosevelt Island, seems to be a part of it because you can clearly see the name above it and it's outlined as if it's a separate district almost. And then also if you go all the way northwest and zoom in on this corner right here, you can see that there's actually another district all the way almost off screen. We do see the ending of it and that also seems to be the ending of the map, but we can't quite see how far north it goes, so we're going to have to guess a little bit there. It's not going to be 100% precise, but give or take a few streets here and there, this is about the layout of the Division map put on Google Maps. As I said, I'm using Google Maps for this video. Now, the useful part of Google Maps is that it also gives you a scale, and this line right here, that represents 200 meters. So if we clean this up a little bit and then simply copy and paste this line of 200 meters all the way from west to east, from border to border, we can see exactly how much meter it takes to cross the map. In this case, I had to use 26 lines going from west to east, which means that the map is about 5.2 kilometers in length. And it's about 2.2 kilometers in width because I could fit 11 lines from top to bottom. Now that means that, again, give or take a few streets and a few inaccessible areas maybe, the map is about 11.44 square kilometers in size. Now when I initially saw this map on the footage, it didn't really strike me as a very big map. Up until I made this video, I was actually quite convinced that the map that the Division 2 is going to have was going to be significantly smaller than the map we had in the Division 1. I don't know why I had this thought. It's just maybe the visuals, the map, the layout, it all looked very clean. There wasn't a whole lot of stuff going on the map. So naturally, I thought that the map wasn't going to be that big. It didn't seem that big, but of course, after, measuring the size, we can now put this map next to the map of the Division 1. Now, we measured the Division 1 in a little bit of a different way because the Division 1 is not a one-to-one scale to the real New York. So I actually had to go in-game and then set a waypoint exactly 200 meters away from my character and then use that distance to draw my 200-meter line. But all in all done, we put these two together, you can see that the map for the Division 2 is actually significantly bigger than the one we had in the Division 1. I wouldn't say twice as big, it's not quite that, but it's at least 75% bigger. That's a fair thing to say, I think. It of course still doesn't hold up against the giant that is GTA 5. People always like it when I compare the size to GTA 5, so here you go. But obviously GTA 5 is sort of a different game. It has vehicles, it has airplanes that you can control, helicopters. The Division doesn't really have any of that, so of course the map that we're getting is designed in a different way. So I don't even know why I made this comparison. It's quite pointless, to be honest. But hey, now at least the players who play GTA 5 should get a decent idea of the size that we're going to get with the Division 2. I'd say that the Division 2 is just a little bit larger than the Los Santos part of GTA 5. Now, there are two things that I want to note down about the Division 2. First up, it has been confirmed that there will be a dark zone. We're going to get a dark zone in the Division 2. It says it on the website. That's our official source. The thing is, though, is that we don't quite know where on the map this dark zone is going to be. If I had to take a guess, and this is a guess, I would say that it is the northwest area. This part right here, it seems to be somewhat darker and more red than the rest of the map, which would indicate to me that this is the dark zone. But it would be an odd spot because, as I talked about earlier, right behind that you see yet another district which does not have that same color coding, which probably means that it wouldn't be part of the dark zone, but that means that there might be a part of the map that forces players through the dark zone to get there. I expect to learn more about this very soon because we're going to get a whole lot more gameplay very soon at E3. Maybe this is explained there. But this is just something that I wanted to point out. And then the next thing that I also want to quickly talk about is the Theodore Roosevelt Island that we spotted earlier. This area is completely separated from the rest of the game, and on Google Maps it is only connected through one bridge south of the island. We don't seem to have that on this map, at least not visually, which means it's completely separated off, as I said. And this makes me think that this could be the starting area, similar to how Brooklyn was the starting area in the Division 1. And something that further backs this up is the fact that the capital, which is presumably one of the last missions in the game, the one we see in the gameplay, that is located all the way on the east side of the map. So in the game, you would most likely slowly move from the west to the east and then leveling up along the way. This is still speculation, though. I want to make that clear. This is not confirmed information, but it is something that I think is very likely going to happen, and I just wanted to point it out. So, what do I think about the map? Well, first up, of course, I like the idea that the map is larger than the one we had for the Division 1. What is probably more important to me, though, is how they fill the map with content. The Division 1's biggest issue with its map definitely wasn't the size, but rather it was that it always sort of felt empty. We had the same 4 side missions that were copy and pasted all over the map, and once those were completed, the game really turned lifeless as far as PvE goes. I mean, we always had the Dark Zone, but the Dark Zone is definitely not for everybody. Now, later on in the game's lifespan, some of these things sort of got fixed a little bit with the addition of HVTs and, meaningful open world bosses and that kind of stuff, but I never really felt like the world was alive. It's never really something they got right. The game was very good looking, but it was also very much dead. And this is where I hope the Division 2 has been improved a lot. I don't really care for the sheer size per se. It's again, it's cool that we're getting a bigger map, but I'm more interested in what there is to do and how they've used this space to create meaningful content. And although we do see signs of underground areas and all that stuff, which might indicate that the map is pretty dense, density is simply something that's impossible to determine from this scripted amount of gameplay, because of course they would make the game look rich and dense in these 6 minutes. They would be stupid if they didn't. That doesn't mean that the map is that dense and filled with stuff everywhere. And the fact that the map is a one-to-one to the real thing is also pretty cool. We'll probably end up seeing tons of those real life versus the Division 2 picture albums where people take in-game screenshots and then make photos of the real life location as well, and then, compare those online. We've already seen those for the Division 1 as well. Now, the one argument that I've seen going around is that people say that the game is still going to change, either graphics-wise or with the map, or nothing is really set in stone yet, because look at how the Division 1 announced this game, look at this trailer, and then look at the final game. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that a lot has changed. And I agree. Definitely, for sure, you guys have a point there. But also, this game is going to come out in 9 months' time, and it seems to be much more like what we can expect from the finished product this time around. Remember, when the Division 1 was announced, it was 2013, and then the game came out in 2016, 3 years later. Now it's only 9 months, so I'm pretty confident that what we're seeing here is sort of what we're getting. There might be some minor changes, but I just don't think we're going to see anything drastic this time around. I think it is best to compare this reveal to the gameplay that we got at E3 2015 for The Division 1. At that point, The Division 1 was also 9 months away from release, although we didn't quite know it then at that time, but you can see for yourself how close this looks to the game that we actually got. Again, it's not exactly the same, but it's a whole lot closer than the E3 2013 trailer. So that's the mindset that I have right now. If this game is really going to come out in 9 months, then not a whole lot can still change. So yeah, that pretty much sums up everything that we know about the map so far, everything that I could find. If anything big shows up during E3, of course, I'll make a video about it. If something drastic changes, if some new area is somehow revealed, then I'll make sure to, of course, post a video about it. But I don't think it's going to be the case. I think we got a lot of all this stuff fairly accurate on the first try. But hey, we'll see. Let me know what you think of all of this. Excited for DC as a location. Would you rather have stayed in New York? What do you think about this? And yeah, as always, I will see you guys later, or like they say in the Netherlands, zie je later.